America's best days are yet to come. That's because conservatives like you know and live the values our great country was built on. The Heritage Foundation exists to make sure your voice is heard in the D.C. swamp each day, shining the light on a bright future. The Heritage Foundation stands for your values and won't give up the fight because they know you never will. Paid for by the Heritage Foundation.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. Speaker of the House Mike Johnson will be with us later. Our buddy Jim Trusty, who's furious, as am I, with what these judges are doing in their effort to undermine the president's ability to get these breakaway cities and states under control when it comes to enforcing federal immigration law. We'll get into that. I want to thank you folks all across the country. Our numbers are very strong in our radio ratings. They're the strongest where they run us live, of course. But we're up against, Major League Baseball in the playoffs. We're up against all kinds of sporting activities and so forth and so on. And we're right in the teeth of it, and we are duking it out, and that's thanks to you. Our podcast numbers are very, very strong. Our online numbers, live streaming numbers are very, very strong. We're looking at the YouTube numbers are very, very strong. So I want to thank you all yet again for all these platforms that we're on. And it's really a tremendous honor. I was asked by Fox and Friends to come on the program to talk about October 7th. And it's a fantastic program with fantastic hosts. They have great chemistry. Ainsley and Brian and Lawrence, they're just great people. And they let me speak. And it went on for about 15 minutes. And I want to give you a feel for this. There were protests all around the world, in the West, Western capitals, in our country, in favor of Hamas. And I was asked about it. Cut one, go.
Mark, thank you for being with us. I know it's a tough day for everyone around the world, or should be at least, but especially for you because Israel holds a special place in your heart. I'm so sorry for what went on and for all of our Jewish friends. But now we're finding out within our lifetime, and National Students for Justice in Palestine, these two groups are organizing rallies, Mark. Here in New York City, there's going to be one in Sydney at the Opera House. What's your reaction? Anti-Israel protests.
My reaction is this. In 1964, a great man, thinker, wrote a book called The Suicide of the West. You're watching the suicide of the West. That was James Burnham. World War II, we fought the fascists, Hitler, Tojo, Mussolini. The Cold War, we've been fighting the communists, and now there's a fusion of the communist Marxists and the Islamists. And the West is not capable of dealing with it internally. The president talks about the enemy within. He's ridiculed and he's correct. Europe is all but gone. I don't know that Britain could come back. I don't know that France could come back. They have these left-wing governments that appease, that are weak. They continue to have their borders open. If you listen to what these people are saying, the radical Islamists, they want to destroy the West. If you listen to their scholars and read their scholars as I have, this is revolution by immigration. They see the West as weak. They see these parliamentary systems. They see our Republican system as poised for defeat, and they have no belief in democracy or republicanism. That's why Israel is the only democracy in the entire Middle East. Hundreds of millions of Arabs and Muslims, and there's one democracy, and it's called Israel. And all of the attacks are on Israel, all the propaganda is against Israel, all the Western media is against Israel, most of the Western politicians are against Israel, and we're told that Israel has a PR problem because it's Netanyahu. Israel doesn't have a PR problem. Netanyahu's the Churchill who's standing up to this. The West is weak. Our media are weak. Our politicians are weak. Some of them have been bought off. Some of them have just appeased. Some of them see votes in what is this new influx of immigrants and so forth. This is what you see. You would not have seen this 10 years ago, 20 years ago in the United States of America. 2 years after 1,200 innocent young human beings were slaughtered, raped, butchered, videotaped in the greatest attack since the Holocaust on Israel. 9/11 was the greatest attack on America since World War II and Pearl Harbor. Who did it? The same Islamists hit us on 9/11 as hit Israel on October 7th. And whose fault is it? Israel's fault? I mean, this shows you a sickness and a weakness in the West. And it is very important that we get the hostages out. But it's also important that Hamas is destroyed, because they will come back again. It is an ideology that doesn't die. This is out of the 7th century. These are primitives. These are barbarians. It is a bloodlust. The more torture, the more starvation, the more people they kill, the happier they are, the more successful they are. That's the ideology. The West doesn't understand the ideology, or people in the West don't want to deal with it. Our diplomats, for the most part, don't understand the ideology. They're looking, I need a deal today, I need a deal next month, I need a deal this. That's fine. But if Hamas comes out and survives after all of this, then they've won. And that's the way they view it. And unfortunately, I agree with that. Now, let us look at this. The fact of the matter is you have 1,152 Israeli soldiers that have died in this war. That's the equivalent of 40,000 American soldiers. There would be less IDF deaths if the IDF and Netanyahu and Israel were, as the Western media say, that is, just seeking genocide. That war in Gaza would be over in less than a month if the Israelis used the firepower they had in Gaza. But it doesn't matter. We still have news sites, including Israeli news sites, American news sites, who continue to talk about the casualty numbers that are fed to them from Hamas. No matter how many experts from the Wharton School and others say it's not possible what they're talking about, the death of children and the death of women. It doesn't matter. They keep pushing it because they push an agenda. It doesn't matter that the New York Times used phony photos on the front page of its newspaper. You know, during the Holocaust, we had black and white films, largely thanks to Eisenhower, who said, I want you to get your TV crews in there, and I want these so people see what happened. We have film after film after film. People can see it online. You don't have that in Gaza. Instead, you have phony pictures. Instead, you have propaganda coming from Hamas that uses its hospitals, its mosques, that slaughters its own people. I mean, truthfully, we have 250 hostages taken. It's crucial that we get back those who are alive and the bodies of those who have been killed, because in the Jewish faith, it is important to get the body back. There's a belief in the Jewish faith that the body and earth, in many ways, are one. That's why it's crucially important. But that said, you now have, and I'm looking at the updated number again, 1,152 Israeli soldiers. 40% of whom are under the age of 21. That's the equivalent in the United States. It's a nation of 9 million people, of 35,000 to 40,000 soldiers. And I would ask my fellow Americans this question. If the drug cartels came across our border in Texas and slaughtered
35,000 to 40,000 people in 5 hours. Took pictures of it, took movies of it. The raping, the pillaging, the decapitating of babies. And then on the way out, they grab another 10,000 as hostages and secrete them somewhere in Mexico. What the hell would we do about that? Would we say 2 years is too long? Would we care what the international press has to say? Would we care what these Islamist imams in Dearborn, Michigan have to say? Would we care? No. You have an Israeli army that has their enemy finally surrounded after being pulled back by the Biden administration. You've had these spurts and starts on negotiations, mostly as a result of the international community. They've now surrounded the enemy in the city of Gaza. And what are they told to do? When Berlin was surrounded, what did we do? What did we do during World War II? When the Japanese wouldn't surrender unconditionally, we didn't continue to negotiate with them, did we? We had to destroy them. You can't win a war if you don't destroy the enemy. We talk about forever wars. Well, they'd like to end it. Hamas is surrounded, and Hamas is now negotiating. Negotiating for what? Effectively, it's survival. The Israelis could finish them off. People say, this got to get over. The pictures are too much. The PR is bad. This is why I don't think we could win World War II today with the kind of people in diplomacy around the West and so forth. They'd be showing the pictures of Dresden. They'd be showing the pictures of the Battle of the Bulge, how horrific it was. They'd be talking about all the civilian deaths and so forth and so on. I don't think we could win World War II today with the psychology and the mentality. And here's the thing. We're not losing anybody. We're here in the United States observing what's taking place. And we're saying this can't go on much longer. Shouldn't the Israelis decide what needs to be done to survive? They are surrounded. This is a tiny country the size of New Jersey with a population of a small to mid-sized state in the United States. Mm-hmm. They've defeated Hezbollah. They're trying to defeat Hamas. They've defeated Iran primarily. They're still fighting the Houthis. A tiny country surrounded by hundreds of millions of people, by 27 countries that are supported by the Russians and the communist Chinese. They are the David against the Goliath. And yet, look how the propaganda has worked. The West, I hate to say it, but it's a wake-up call. The West is dying right now in front of your eyes.
Now, I know it's tight, Rich. Let's try and squeeze in cut 2. That will finish my interview. Go ahead. Yeah, you see London, you see Paris, you see what's going on in both those countries. That's our future, you believe, in 5 years. And I hear you, especially when what we're about to do, who we're about to elect as mayor in New York City, and what we've seen go on over in Michigan. Al Jazeera is telling Arabic, said the meeting in the Red Sea Resort is so far very positive. They got the 20-point plan that Trump put out there. They're working through it. They're working on logistics of getting the hostages out. 20 plus are supposed to be alive. Number one, do you think it's a good thing if this plan is followed through on, and what do you expect to see happen?
First of all, we have a great president who's trying to do something about this. Unlike Biden, who is undermining Israel and basically giving aid and comfort to Iran and funding Iran, we have a president who's trying to bring this to resolution. There will not be an eternal peace. The Bible talks about the battle of good and evil. It is a forever battle, and it will be a forever battle. But that said, if the president can pull this off, it'll be absolutely remarkable and absolutely wonderful, assuming that the Israelis aren't giving too much. I mean, the fact of the matter is, if Hamas survives, that's giving an awful lot. But it's up to the Israelis. And if the Israelis agree to this plan, and they do, who am I to say it's not good for their government? That's their elected government and so forth. All I'm doing is trying to warn our audience and the people. The dark clouds, they're there. They're getting darker and darker. You asked me, Brian, how could it be on this day that people are literally protesting on behalf of the terrorists and against a small democracy and the Jews? And it's in every capital in the West. It's in our own country in New York, and it is a poison. It is a gut cancer, and it is spreading. The only one who's fighting this in the West is Donald Trump. He's trying to fight the anti-Semitism. He's trying to deal with these colleges and universities. He's trying to look at the funding sources. He's trying to do these things to try and prevent the United States from becoming Britain and France and these other what are becoming failed countries. No country survives in perpetuity. Where's Athens? Where's Rome? In fact, ironically, the only people who have survived so far are the Jews. They defeated the Persians, the Babylonians, the Persians. They out-survived them, I should say. They out-survived the Romans. They out-survived the Third Reich. They will survive this too. But this is why these are warrior people. They come out of the cafes. They come out of the law offices. They come out of their taxis because they know this isn't a battle. This is survival. And that's what it is. So I personally want to thank President Trump, who understands all this, who keeps reminding people, remember October 7th, even against some of his advisors and some of the diplomats and these Western leaders who talk about a two-state solution. They're destroying their own countries, and yet they're telling Israel what Israel needs to do. Israel's best policy is to ignore them, and that's what it's trying to do.
All right, we have about a minute left, but it's okay. You get the gist of it. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Folks, I have a question for you. Do you believe America's best days are still ahead? With the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence coming up in less than a year, my friends at the Heritage Foundation are taking stock of the current situation, and they need your input. They've launched a survey on America's future to gauge how Americans feel right now about where we are as a nation and where we're headed in the next 250 years. You know, for decades, your American values have been under attack, but now, with President Trump's administration in office, we have an opportunity to turn the tide and usher in a new golden age for America. But the Heritage Foundation needs to hear from you. What policies do patriots like you most care about? What do you believe are the defining principles of America? What legacy do you believe we should pass on to the next generation? Please visit heritage.org/Levin today and share your feedback and help shape the future of America. That's heritage.org/LEVIN. Paid for by the Heritage Foundation. Rudy Giuliani came out today and endorsed Curtis Sliwa. Of course, I endorsed Curtis Sliwa some time ago, so did Hannity. Didn't we, Mr. Producer? And now the Democrats are relying on Republicans to beat Mamdani. Now, Mamdani and the Democratic Socialists, a.k.a. the Marxist Islamist, Jew-hating, American-hating crowd, they changed the voting system in the primaries to accommodate what is really a small minority of voters, as Mark Penn explained on my show on Sunday on Life, Liberty, and Levin. And then they got rid of it for the general because it would have ensured the election of either Cuomo or Sliwa. But what I wanted to tell you that in the New York Post, Mamdani accuses Netanyahu and the Israeli government of launching genocide war. That's what he did on the October 7th anniversary today. This guy's a pig. He is a lowlife. I don't care about that stupid look on his face. I don't care about the propaganda that seems to appeal to 13-year-olds. He is a destroyer. He is a one-man wrecking ball. He is an Islamist who hates this country, hates our economic system. Meanwhile, he and his family come here from Uganda to come to our country, the greatest country on the face of the earth, in order to destroy it. Reminds me of Omar. Reminds me of Tlaib. All the other wonderful, wonderful individuals in the Democrat Party in our country. More when I return. We're coming upon the 250th birthday of the United States, and it has me thinking, what will America look like 250 years from now? My friends at the Heritage Foundation want to know what you think. What policies should America prioritize? What principles should carry us into the decades ahead? As America enters a new golden age, Heritage recognizes that this is the time to take stock and to be intentional about how we shape the future of America. And they can't do it without your input. So please go to heritage.org/LEVIN and let them know what you think is important. Without patriots like you stepping up and speaking up for what you believe in, America as we know it can't survive for another 250 years. Please go to heritage.org/Levin, heritage.org/LEVIN. Take the survey on America's future future. This survey takes less than 10 minutes to complete, but it is critical for making sure that the America we pass on to future generations is an America we're proud of. Go to heritage.org/Levin today. That's heritage.org/LEVIN. Paid for by the Heritage Foundation.
This is the home of America's founding. Call in now, 877-381-3811.
I think Pam Bondi today was unbelievable. Unbelievable. And let me just say this, for the record. Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, and Dan Bongino are doing a great job. A great job. That is a massive department. There are knives out there. People trying to undermine them every step of the way. They are doing a great job. Look, I don't care what the little Putians say, all the weirdos and the pukes and the punks and the conspiracy nuts. I don't live in that swamp, okay? You shouldn't either. Well, what about Epstein? What about him? What about him? Seriously, as I say over and over, what's the end game there? These morons keep barking it out like there's somebody. What is the point? But look what they're revealing, Bondi, Patel, Bongino. It's not so easy being in that swamp. The two most dangerous bureaucracies are at the State Department and the Department of Justice. Two of the oldest cabinets. Because the bureaucrats are superior. They're smart. They're clever. They're informed. They have a lot of power. They're entrenched. So when you see the success of a Rubio or the success of a Bondi and over at the FBI, Patel and Bongino, you ought to be thanking them. They don't need these jobs. And they're doing a hell of a job. Just one man's opinion, somebody who worked at the Department of Justice for a long time under President Reagan. Very impressive. And they don't take any bullcrap either. When they're testifying on Capitol, Pam Bondi, I was spellbound for like 2 hours. She was fantastic. Poised, sharp. When Patel's up there, same thing. Same thing. So rather than shoot our generals in the back, I think it would make a good idea for all of us to support them. Stay away from the grifters, the same ones. The same ones who think they can do better have really done nothing in their lives other than broadcast. I've done a lot more than broadcast. Most of these other people haven't. I tell you all the time, ask yourself when you listen to these people, what have they done for the conservative movement? What did they do? Some of them are old enough. What did they do during the Reagan era? Nothing. What did they do with the Tea Party? Nothing. None of them were even there. None of them even showed up. They were all old enough to do that. And it's my contention that MAGA is in many respects the old Tea Party that moved towards President Trump, who decided to take action in response to the Tea Party movement. He embraced the Tea Party movement, you might recall. That's when I first met him on the south grounds of the Capitol, where we had a massive, massive Tea Party event. On what, by the way? On Iran. Against the Iran deal, against Iran getting nukes. All these buffoons and fruitcakes now going on, well, Iran, misunderstood. Well, Iran, nuclear weapons. They're the ones who are out of kilter. They're the bizarros, quite frankly. This guy Mamdani is a pig. Now, not because he's a Muslim, because he's a pig. I could bring Zuhdi Jasser on here. Guys like Mamdani hate Zuhdi Jasser. Keep in mind, in the Middle East, in Africa, and other parts of the world, Muslims are slaughtering Muslims. The Islamists are slaughtering Muslims. Got it? Now, they've Americanized, just like American Marxism, we have American Islamism. So Mamdani wears a tie. Mamdani knows how to talk, walk the walk. And so he literally takes his Hamas-loving agenda and camouflages it in civil liberties and civil rights. So here's what he does today. On the second anniversary of the slaughter of Israelis by Palestinian Islamists. New York Post, mayoral frontrunner Zohran Mamdani chose the second anniversary of Hamas's brutal October 7 attack to blast Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and the Israeli government for launching a genocide war in Gaza. They hate Netanyahu because he's kicking their asses, that's why. And they launched a genocide war. I see. So Hamas slaughtering Palestinians, Hamas using mosques and schools and hospitals, Hamas starving Palestinians. No, that's not a genocidal war, no. Mamdani also argued the United States, quote, has been complicit through it all, unquote, in a statement he posted to his X account. So here today of all days, he's trashing Israel and trashing the United States. This guy, ladies and gentlemen, is the enemy of all free people, of all Americans. He's the enemy. The left-wing Democrat nominee, he's a Marxist Islamist, found some space to condemn Hamas for carrying out a horrific war crime. They killed 1,200 Israelis and said he prays for the return of hostages still held in the Palestinian enclave. I doubt that very, very much. In the aftermath of that day, Prime Minister Netanyahu and the Israeli government launched a genocidal war, he said, while adding that 67 people have been killed, a figure used by the Hamas-run health ministry in Gaza. It is a lie. It's always been a lie. Some of the top experts in our country have said it's not true, but it doesn't matter. The truth doesn't matter. How come Mamdani doesn't come out in defense of the Muslims being slaughtered in Syria? 500,000 of them. Not a word. How come he doesn't come out for the Muslims being slaughtered in Yemen? 250,000 of them. Not a word. How come he doesn't come out about what Hezbollah did to Lebanese Christians and Muslims? Not a word. Not one word. Not a word. Because he's a lying sack of you-know-what. He's a disgusting pig. That's what he is. He's an Islamist, not a traditional Muslim. Now, this upsets people when I say it. That's their problem. That's their problem. You can't... how many more times do I have to explain the same thing? I've explained it enough. The point is, Mamdani is a radical Islamist. That's what he is. His father's a nut job. His mother's a nut job. As you know, Hamas, the sneak attack, 6,000 to 7,000 of them on a few thousand teenagers at that Nova Music Festival. The slaughter, the depraved murders and kidnappings they resulted in Israel launching a military campaign in Gaza. Israel's not allowed to win, you see. They're not allowed to defeat the enemy. We can blow cities off the face of the earth during World War II, and we needed to do what we did. Absolutely. And I was asked the liberals, was the Civil War too long? How come they don't say the Civil War was too long? Over 700,000 casualties. You had battles and where you have tens of thousands of men killed. Was that too long? Would we have even fought a civil war under current psychological conditions as a nation? I don't think so. I don't think we could have won World War II. The last 2 years have demonstrated the very worst of humanity, said this jackass, adding a peace deal needs to be reached through diplomacy, not war crimes. Did we circle back with him, Mr. Producer? Can we please circle back with him? Oh, you did? We never hear back from this a-hole, ever. AOC's worried about the height of Stephen Miller. She ought to worry about the low numbers of her IQ. In the negatives. She's got the IQ of a banana. That's what she's got. She's an idiot. She knows how to sloganeer. Packing somebody's physical appearance. Leave that to me. Leave that to me. She's one big boob, wouldn't you say, Mr. Producer? No offense. There's no moral equivalence between Hamas and Israel. The statement shows he's unfit to be mayor of New York, points out Matthew Schweber, a member of the Columbia University Jewish Alumni Association. He's unfit to be running a 7-Eleven. This guy is a punk. A punk. Mayor's office spokesman Fabian Levy also decried Mamdani's statement. Just to be clear, this is not a statement about October 7, he wrote. This is a statement about how much Zohran doesn't believe in Israel's right to exist, including women and children, including subjecting them to hard conditions, including little food and tucked away in dark tunnels for months. You understand the inhumanity of this punk. You understand the inhumanity of this bastard, right? If he feels this way about October 7th, you think he gives a damn about you in New York City? Seriously, folks. Do you? He doesn't. You're pawns to be played with. He's refused to recognize Israel as a Jewish state. He's refused to denounce or renounce the international intifada. He has said things that he truly meant when he wasn't running for mayor. Look at the sick bastards running as Democrats. You got that moron running for governor in New Jersey. You've got that sick bastard running for attorney general of Virginia. Now you have this terrorist-loving piece of crap running for mayor in New York City. That Democrat Party knows how to pick him, doesn't it? It even allows third parties to pick him, the Democratic Socialists. Oh, that sounds so great. Almost like the National Socialists. Remember that, Mr. Producer? That was the Nazi Party. So we have the National Socialists, we have the Democratic Socialists. They don't run as Americans, do they? Constitutionalists. No way. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Folks, I have a question for you. Do you believe America's best days are still ahead? With the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence coming up in less than a year, my friends at the Heritage Foundation are taking stock of the current situation, and they need your input. They've launched a survey on America's future to gauge how Americans feel right now about where we are as a nation and where we're headed in the next 250 years. You know, for decades, your American values have been under attack, but now, with President Trump's administration in office, we have an opportunity to turn the tide and usher in a new golden age for America. But the Heritage Foundation needs to hear from you. What policies do patriots like you most care about? What do you believe are the defining principles of America? What legacy do you believe we should pass on to the next generation? Please visit heritage.org/Levin today and share your feedback and help shape the future of America. That's heritage.org/LEVIN. Paid for by the Heritage Foundation. Off and running, baby. Now, I want to apologize to you for the end of yesterday's show. What happened was our main line went down. It's fixed. We now know what happened. Totally out of my control, Mr. Producer's control. And then the backup line, because of a thunderstorm, and we needed the cell tower to help us out, that line was very sketchy, and then it went down. And so the network had to put about, 7-8 minutes of a best of from Friday. And look, it happens from time to time. This is live radio. Not often. And that's what happened, the machinery. So sorry about that. Again, it's live radio. That's what happens. And not often, but that's what happened last night. And nobody was angrier than me. Right, Mr. Producer? So that's the way it goes. The Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, was on our friend Sid Rosenberg's show today, WABC Morning Show, the biggest and the best. Just, he's fantastic. Love the guy. Let's take a listen. Cut 3, go.
You know, Reagan used to say trust and verify. In this case, we have to distrust and continually verify.
Talk about Hamas.
Because Hamas, people have to understand. I heard our friend Mark Levin this morning was on Fox News as I was walking through.
He was great.
And he was great. And he has a way of explaining things that few others can. And he said, what the West needs to understand is that Hamas has to be destroyed. They have a 7th century ideology, which is to kill. It is a gain for them. The more infidels they can wipe out, the more Jews they can torture and kill, the greater their reward, they think. I mean, it is a twisted, demonic thing. And you can't deal with that kind of ideology with conventional means. It's, Witkoff understands this, Jared Kushner, everybody who's been involved, the president understands. You've got to force them into submission, and you have got to hold their feet to the fire. Israel wants to vanquish Hamas so that they have a future security, and we fully understand that. They're not going to just put the weapons down and say, oh, gee, guys, you were right. It doesn't work that way. This has been going on for thousands of years, and we have to face that reality.
Mm-hmm. And Mamdani's on the wrong side. He's for the enemy. He talks up the modern-day Nazis, doesn't he? If Mamdani were alive during World War II, he would accuse the Jewish freedom fighters of being genocidal and say the Nazis have a point. In fact, I think some of our podcasters do that, don't they, Mr. Producer? Look, folks, it's important that you hold tightly onto your morals, your values, your principles, and your faith. It's very, very important that we Jews and Christians and others of goodwill stand together as tightly as possible. We're in for a tough time. The border's wide open. People came into this country who hate us, who hate our country, hate our faiths. They don't believe in live and let live. They believe in live their way or die. If you're Christian, I want you to ask yourself a question. And I pointed this out, and then Bill Maher points it out. But we pointed it out here, as you well know. There's no talk, none, about the Christians being slaughtered in Nigeria and the rest of Africa. There's no talk about what happened to the huge Christian communities in the Middle East. They no longer exist. The Coptic Christians are abused daily by the Egyptian Muslims. The Egyptians in Syria are constantly being abused and slaughtered. When the Israelis went in there to try and protect them, they were attacked by our own envoy, among others. I just point this out to you, that the Holy Land belongs to the Christians too. So where are the Christians? They've been destroyed. They've been pushed out. What we're facing now in the West, I said it to you a couple of years ago, is a new crusade. It's an Islamist crusade. That's what it is. I'll be right back. This segment of the podcast is exclusively sponsored by Pure Talk. Pure Talk offers great coverage and can save your family money on your wireless bill every single month. Go to puretalk.com to find the plan that's right for you. Thank you again for listening, and thank you so much for this sponsorship, Pure Talk.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, America. Mark Levin here. My number is 877-381-3811. 877-381-3811. Pam Bondi really was fantastic. And she's at the hearing today dealing with little Dick Durbin. How come AOC doesn't call little Dick Durbin Little Dick Durbin, Mr. Producer. Let's go to cut 5. Go.
You're conflating two issues. Cutting grants. I was very clear about what grants we've cut and what grants we haven't. Only 7%. And if you have a grant in Illinois that you think that I've cut that is protecting law enforcement officers or your people, you personally call me and I will work with you to turn that grant back on. I think many of the Democrats here can tell you I have worked with them to turn grants back on. There's an appeal process. Tell me a specific grant that I have turned off in Illinois that would help law enforcement, and I will work with you. But you have not done that.
Did you take a look?
The National Guard is on the way right now as we speak. Oh, and by the way, so is Director Patel and Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche. You're sitting here grilling me, and they're on their way to Chicago to keep your state safe.
Mm-hmm. Cut 5, go.
The word
6,
is, and
go.
I think it's been confirmed by the White House, they are going to transfer Texas National Guard units to the state of Illinois. What's the rationale for that?
Yeah, Chairman, as you shut down the government, you voted to shut down the government, and you're sitting here, our law enforcement officers aren't being paid. They're out there working to protect you. I wish you loved Chicago as much as you hate President Trump. And currently, the National Guard are on the way to Chicago. If you're not going to protect your citizens, President Trump will.
And it was like this all day. All day. She was having none of it. And I'm sure the president is very proud of her and should be. It was just fantastic watching this. Let's go to cut 16. Go.
This is what was happening under Joe Biden.
This is Josh Hawley, by the way, has been fantastic. Let's start at the top. This is Josh Hawley, too, has been fantastic as well. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
This is what was happening under Joe Biden. United States senators spied upon. Former presidents, the political opponents of the president at the time, targeted, prosecuted. Pro-lifers, targeted, prosecuted. Catholics, targeted, prosecuted. 92 conservative organizations put under surveillance, targeted for potential prosecution. Gee, I don't know. Would you call that an example of weaponization, Attorney General Bonnie? Do you think that's a fair characterization?
Senator Hawley, that is the ultimate weaponization. And weaponization under Donald Trump has ended. It has ended. Harmeet Dillon is running our civil rights unit, and she is doing an incredible job. No longer will parents be targeted. No longer will parents who care about whether their elementary school children have to read a transgender book be targeted and told they cannot have any say in their child's education. That has ended under this administration. People can worship freely, whether they're Catholics at synagogues or Muslims. Everyone can worship freely. That was the ultimate weaponization. They were targeting Catholics. No longer. They have been targeting so many American citizens throughout this country. And Senator Hawley, you have been a champion of this, and thank you for being a champion of that. But under Donald Trump's watch, it has ended.
Mm-hmm. God, when you think about the stuff that the Biden regime did, and before that, the Obama regime, it's really unbelievable. And these bastards dare to attack Trump and his Department of Justice. The media are so corrupt, so filthy, filled with left-wing Democrat ideology. One more, cut 17, go.
To my Republican colleagues who claim the previous administration weaponized the Department of Justice, President Biden retained President Trump's FBI Director Christopher Wray, who President Trump then fired. We know that, and we know that Wray was a toady, he was a rhino, he was pathetic, the kind of Republicans that the Democrats love.
Go ahead.
President Biden never directed the Attorney General to prosecute his political opponents.
What are you talking about? He didn't have to direct them. He made it clear that he didn't like his ponderous judge as the Attorney General. He wanted him to get going and do something. This guy acts like we weren't there. We didn't live through this, but we did. Go ahead.
Never fired his own political appointees for refusing to prosecute his targets. What has taken place since January 20th, 2025...
He didn't have to because they all went after his targets. mostly Donald Trump, his biggest target. And now we know a lot more, don't we? Now we know a lot more about Obama and Biden and Comey and all the rest of them, all the other thugs. And now we know that they were now monitoring Republican senators and members of the House and conservatives. And, you know, it'd be very interesting to know the extent to which the White House knew about this or might have been behind it. I don't believe things just happen. Go ahead.
Make even President Nixon recoil. This is your legacy.
Shut up, you. By the way, I don't think he's taller than 4'11", Mr. Producer. I don't think he is. But it doesn't matter. He's retiring, and he should have retired a long, long time ago. He's horrendous. This guy Pritzker, do you realize he's as wide as he is tall? You know, now that AOC's getting into this, why not? This guy is really a head case. I believe he's mentally ill. I believe he needs help. Here he is again with ICE. What he's talking about. This guy's a billionaire. He bought himself a governorship. He's been a horrendous governor. Illinois pensions are totally out of control. Just a matter of time till they bankrupt the state. And he buys his constituency with taxpayer dollars. He doesn't care how much crime there is in Chicago. He says he's worried about brown and black people. Well, a lot of brown and black people don't exist anymore in Chicago, so they've been murdered. And that apparently is okay with Pritzker. Apparently. Cut 7, go.
What we're talking about is authoritarianism. We could have talked about Pol Pot. We could have talked about authoritarians across history. I chose something I know very well.
Ladies and gentlemen, Pol Pot killed 25% of his population. Okay, he knows something very well, which is a shock. Go ahead.
Holocaust Museum. What I know is in the early days of the Nazi regime, they started slowly but surely taking away people's rights. And what we're seeing now is...
Nobody's taking away anybody's rights, you jackass. And how dare you and your party and slugs like you keep doing this? On the memory of those who were slaughtered in concentration camps. First, you got part of your party that has really no big problem with that. The modern-day Nazis, Hamas and their ilk, are said to be the victims. Now you big fat slug, you go up there, and what do? Talk about the 1930s. People's rights are being taken away. These are illegal aliens. There's federal law. This is the process that exists in the law. This guy's leading what is a quiet civil war. That's what I call it. Where Democrat cities and Democrat states are breakaways. They claim a sanctuary status that does not exist for the purpose of openly defying federal law and presidential authority under the Constitution to enforce it. They are so desperate to keep their 20 million illegal aliens in the country. They are so desperate for the court to rule that birthright citizenship shall remain. They are so desperate for power. That is exactly what's taking place. And for this slob, this pig, to continually invoke the Nazis, when his party, when a big chunk of his party, with a big chunk of the people he stands with during these press conferences, embrace the modern Nazis, is sickening. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Our society works because of the freedoms guaranteed by the First Amendment. Everyday Americans should be able to speak openly and honestly about family and traditional values without retribution from the government. And that's a principle Pure Talk proudly supports. They sponsor my show, which allows me to stand strong behind the microphone every day and share the truth with you. If you want to support brands that defend freedom and pro-American values, I strongly encourage you to switch your wireless service to Pure Talk. You're going to get great 5G coverage on an extremely reliable and secure network. And with plans from just $25 a month, you'll save a ton of money. And Pure Talk also believes in creating American jobs and supporting America's small businesses. So if you're a small business owner, you can save even more while enjoying white glove service. Stand with the companies who share your values. Go to puretalk.com/Levin. That's puretalk.com/LEVIN to switch to my favorite wireless company right now, Pure Talk, and you'll save an additional 50% off your first month. Again, puretalk.com/LEVIN. Make the switch, folks. Make it today. We're here with our friend Jim Trusty. Jim, how are you, buddy?
Hey, I'm good. Great one. How you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you. Well, you wrote a beautiful piece today. Why did you decide to write this and post it? And you're talking about it on TV, and you're doing a great job of it. There's something out there that's concerning you so much that it's motivated you to jump in. What is it?
Well, there's kind of the broad strokes of our society, crumbling with the willingness of the left to tolerate murder. That's kind of the broad strokes of this is, we are seeing a society where nobody on the other side of the aisle will full-throatedly condemn assassinations. And what brought that home, besides obviously situations like Charlie Kirk and shooting up ICE stations, but this sentencing of Nichola Roske, who was the attempted assassin of actually not just Justice Kavanaugh. He wanted to kill 3 conservative Supreme Court justices. He got the People's Republic of Maryland fair treatment of getting an incredibly light sentence in something that just shakes the pillars of our criminal justice system. A guy who wanted to kill Supreme Court justices to keep Roe versus Wade as the law of the land. It's as simple as that. So when we get to the point where political assassination and jeopardizing a Supreme Court is kind of tolerated and winked at, I feel like I've got to engage.
Jim, you and I have been around a little while. We've been around Washington a little while, been around the law a little while. I've never seen so many radical judges in my life. Have you? Let's be honest about this.
Yeah, it's a reminder elections have consequences. And look, there was a stretch during the first Trump administration where, he was very aggressively working with Mitch McConnell and getting a lot of appointments done. And that has made a difference. Like the Ninth Circuit, for instance, is not as predictably left because you might get a conservative panel on your hearing there. But, when you've got, this was during the Biden years, the judge on this particular sentencing was confirmed 52-48 and was part of a package that was celebrated for diversity because she was, Palestinian American. And the diversity, it's one thing to celebrate diversity. It's another thing to basically celebrate left-wing causes at the expense of the safety of the Supreme Court. And that's what we had happen. We have a judge who was more concerned about a last-second sex change coming on behalf of Nichola Roske to become Sophie Roske, then she was worried about the safety of the Supreme Court. And keep in mind, this guy was moments away from breaking in the middle of the night to the Chevy Chase home of Justice Kavanaugh, armed with a gun with a laser sight, with a knife, with bondage materials, with devices to help him break in quietly. This was the most premeditated effort. And yes, it stopped short, but that's not some great moment of self-reflection. He saw 2 U.S. Marshals outside the house and realized the game was up.
What kind of message does this send, too, when a judge does something like this? It's really shocking to the system, isn't it?
Yeah, look, I don't have anything personally about this guy Roske. I don't know him from Adam. I don't care if he's Nick Roske or Sophie Roske or all of the above. But what he did with incredible premeditation, sitting on a computer looking up addresses for Supreme Court justices, looking up non-extradition countries, insanity defenses, whether a knife being twisted causes more damage than a knife being dragged. This was evil stuff. And again, not just for any citizen, which it would be bad enough, but for the political purpose of disabling the Supreme Court. And because of that, the prosecutors in Maryland did the right thing. They didn't make any sort of plea offer. They said you can plead to the attempted assassination of a Supreme Court justice, and you say what you say, we say what we say. Well, they tracked the sentencing guidelines, which were 30 years to life. And the defense attorney said, yeah, but, he won't get his hormone therapy, and we want him to get 8 years. And the judge gave him the bizarre number of 97 months, 8 years and 1 month. I guess it was this juvenile effort to say, I didn't give either side what they asked for. But this is a guy who, with all the danger he posed, with all of the effort to try to kill Supreme Court justices, will be back out on the streets probably by about 2029, maybe 2030.
It's frightening. And when you consider the open borders with criminals coming in, when you consider what some of these judges are doing, it's dangerous out there. Let me talk to you about ICE and what you're seeing in some of these cities. First it was L.A., now it's Portland and Chicago in particular. This judge who ruled, and she was appointed. First of all, I want to get something straight. She was appointed by Trump. I was involved in the appointment of judges early Reagan. The district court judges are not all of the ideology of the president who appoints them. Sometimes they have to cut deals, and they do, because one party or the other will block a vote on a judge nominee unless they get one or two that they want. So as an example, let's take New York. New York has 2 Democrat senators. And so in order, let's say there's 3 vacancies, 3 district court vacancies. In order to get 2 of them through, a Republican president may have to say, okay, these are the 2 I want. That's the one you want. And the package goes through that way. People don't understand that. I've seen it. Now, it does not happen at the appellate level because there are just too few of them, and they're too valuable. And certainly not at the Supreme Court level. Now, I'm not saying this judge, this particular one, was chosen that way, but some of them are. So when somebody says, oh, that's a Trump judge, I always look behind the scenes to try and figure out what it is, Jim. Now, that said, this woman judge actually worked for Ken Starr, who was one of my buddies. Saul Weinstein said, yes, she did, but her opinion is ridiculous in terms of saying that the president has to go through this, to send in the National Guard. And she basically writes an opinion piece for the Washington Post and the New York Times. There's plenty of precedent for this. There's precedent since 1808 for the use of the Insurrection Act for something like this. My position, Jim Trusty, is you literally have what's going on now. Cities and states that claim sanctuary status for purposes of immigration. They're breakaway cities. They're breakaway states. They're saying you're not going to deport these people. And then you have illegal aliens and supporters who are citizens out there physically, violently confronting federal law enforcement. What do you make of this?
Yeah, no, total agreement. And one other thing to add in terms of the judicial selections by President Trump, because he was not a longtime politician when he first ran for president, he didn't have a whole bunch of kind of blue blood relationships with different conservatives and with different people that could point him in the right direction on judges. So he was probably at more of a disadvantage for that phenomena you talked about than lifetime politicians who are used to all those types of deals. But look, to get to what happened with that ruling, I'd say a couple of things. It is a challenge before you at least invoke the Insurrection Act, which I think is the out here. It's a challenge to put the National Guard in a place if the governor's against it. And here's why. It's a very practical thing. It's not necessarily about supremacy clause or reservations for states' rights and federalism. It's a practical thing.
Hold your thought. I got to take a break. We leave it at Jim Trusty saying, look, the problem really isn't a legal problem. It's a different type of problem. And we're going to get to this. We know the problem is an illegal or constitutional one. We had Eisenhower, we had Kennedy, we had Johnson using the National Guard to ensure integration against the wishes of governors. He's got a point, though. We'll be right back. Our society works because of the freedoms guaranteed by the First Amendment. Everyday Americans should be able to speak openly and honestly about family and traditional values without retribution from the government. And that's a principle Pure Talk proudly supports. They sponsor my show, which allows me to stand strong behind the microphone every day and share the truth with you. If you want to support brands that defend freedom and pro-American values, I strongly encourage you to switch your wireless service to Pure Talk. You're going to get great 5G coverage on an extremely reliable and secure network. And with plans from just $25 a month, you'll save a ton of money. And Pure Talk also believes in creating American jobs and supporting America's small businesses. So if you're a small business owner, you can save even more while enjoying white glove service. Stand with the companies who share your values. Go to puretalk.com/Levin. That's puretalk.com/LEVIN to switch to my favorite wireless company right now, Pure Talk, and you'll save an additional 50% off your first month. Again, puretalk.com/LEVIN. Make the switch, folks. Make it today.
Mark the 10, the thunder on the right. Call in now, 877-381-3811.
We're here with our friend Jim Trusty, and we'll get right to Jim. Jim Trusty, first of all, if people want to read your great blog, where do they go?
The Lawyer on X, or you can go to the IFRA Law website. That's the law firm I work for, IFRAH. And under Insights, Crime in the Suites is the category. You'll see all my blogs.
All right, let's post that, Mr. Producer, if you would. So you were saying, look, Mark, aside from this legal stuff, there's a practical problem, or it's at least a difficult hurdle.
There is, and it's kind of the magic of lawfare. We've gotten so used to that over the last few years when President Trump's in the sights. But here's what's happening behind the scenes on these lawsuits, these temporary restraining orders and injunctions. The Portland political figures all go to their different police agencies and they say, I want you to give me a spit-polished affidavit that says we don't have any problems, we don't need the National Guard, everything's under control. And so they get these kind of euphemistic stories about how, well, June was kind of bad and don't worry so much about the guillotine that showed up in front of the ICE headquarters. Everything's going to be fine. We can handle it. We don't need the National Guard. And that's an important factor for these judges. But the problem is these judges go ahead and treat it like an emergency. They set hearings on Sundays, and DOJ has almost no time to scramble and come up with a response. So you have these very premeditated affidavits from law enforcement saying, Judge, we don't need the National Guard. And you have DOJ on their heels dealing with expedited hearings flying across the country. And basically what happens is the judge gets sugar-coated facts. This judge referred to the ongoing problem of people in Portland shining what she called high-powered flashlights in the eyes of ICE drivers. Well, you and I would call those lasers. They're not high-powered flashlights. And she went on to say the National Guard actually caused riots in Los Angeles. And so, again, the fact-finding, which is so critical for the extraordinary moment of a judge issuing a TRO against the government, is warped because the government doesn't get a fair chance to respond. So, look, there's a hearing on the 14th. Maybe that'll have a little more robust ability of the DOJ to fight back on these kind of factual allegations that everything's beautiful in Portland, another summer of love. And Mark, you mentioned Chicago. If I can just take a quick second to go to that. I was the chief of the organized crime and gang section. We dealt with the Latin Kings as one of the gangs that we prosecuted across the country. You have a Latin King member putting a bounty on a Border Patrol official. And that's like a nationwide edict. That's for every Latin King in the country to be activated, to be looking for a way to harm this official. And meanwhile, you've got the gasoline on the fire of a ridiculous mayor saying ICE is a bunch of abusive liars, creating these ICE-free zones, which, by the way, are perfect to allow for the Insurrection Act to kick in. Mm-hmm. And I'm left with two quick thoughts. One is, I think A.G. Bondi had it exactly right when she said to Durbin, I wish you loved Chicago as much as you hate Donald Trump. That's the heart of what's going on politically. And then the second thing, and I hate to say this, and I hate to be right someday, but I think with the dialogue or the kind of commentary we get from left-wing or liberal figures and the hatred that's being fueled, that we're going to see Tom Homan and high-level officials of the Department of Justice and DHS at a funeral. There's going to be a dead ICE agent at some point. And I hate to say that. I've got friends that are there. I worry about them. They don't deserve any of this. But that's the culture that's being created in places like Chicago. It's telling a Latin king, essentially, you're okay for wanting to go after Border Patrol because they're evil federal agents as part of a militarized city. So I'm afraid we're going to have this glum moment of we saw it coming. And remember this day. Remember what the politicians were saying from Illinois when we get to that day in the future where somebody gets hurt or killed.
You know, Jim Trusty, as I look, and I have looked back on the use of the Insurrection Act, can clearly use the Insurrection Act here, get their facts together, bring in a few videos, that would help. But that said, when you listen to the mayors and the governors, even to these police chiefs, the fact of the matter is you have things going on in these cities that are intended to blunt the enforcement of federal immigration law. And it's almost as if these illegal aliens and those supporting them, those citizens supporting them, they're almost like local militia at this point, because the governors, particularly Newsom, who is completely out of control. This guy Pritzker's horrendous. I don't even know the name of the one in Oregon. Complete nut job. But these mayors are so radical that they're basically turning up the heat and turning up the heat and turning up the heat. If this isn't an occasion to try and put this down, I don't know what is. But let me ask you a question. You're a judge, let's say, in Portland, okay? Federal judge. Your damn courthouse has been under attack for 5 damn years. Don't you see what the hell's going on out there with Antifa and so forth? Can't you see it with your own 2 eyes to have enough sense to know if you're getting watered down reports coming in about Antifa trying to, committing all these acts of violence while ICE is trying to come in there? Don't you have any common sense?
Yeah, I don't know. They must live in quite a gated community, because you're right. I mean, this is, look, you had me at guillotine, right? When you've got protesters that are preaching violence, that are trying to shut down lawful action by federal agents, you had Molotov cocktails pinning U.S. Marshals into that courthouse in Portland a couple of years ago. They couldn't leave because people were trying to burn them alive. But somehow we're supposed to think it's just kind of a fun little hippie weekend where everybody's just, smoking some pot and using their free speech rights. It's just not that. These are professional protests by groups that ought to be looked at under RICO, financiers and leaders that should be swept up in a RICO prosecution. And we should recognize it for what it is. It's a call for lawlessness. It's a call for violence against law enforcement. And there was a day when everyone in this country would pretty much rally around that and understand what a threat it poses.
Yeah, those were the days. It's very frightening that it's not anymore. Jim Trusty, I want to thank you, my friend. Keep up the great work, and we really appreciate you.
Always good to be with you, Mark. Appreciate it.
All right, brother. You take care of yourself. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Our society works because of the freedoms guaranteed by the First Amendment. Everyday Americans should be able to speak openly and honestly about family and traditional values without retribution from the government. And that's a principle Pure Talk proudly supports. They sponsor my show, which allows me to stand strong behind the microphone every day and share the truth with you. If you want to support brands that defend freedom and pro-American values, I strongly encourage you to switch your wireless service to Pure Talk. You're going to get great 5G coverage on an extremely reliable and secure network, and with plans from just $25 a month, you'll save a ton of money. And Pure Talk also believes in creating American jobs and supporting America's small businesses. So if you're a small business owner, you can save even more while enjoying white glove service. Stand with the companies who share your values. Go to puretalk.com/Levin. That's puretalk.com/LEVIN to switch to my favorite wireless company right now, Pure Talk, and you'll save an additional 50% off your first month. Again, puretalk.com/LEVIN. Make the switch, folks. Make it today. New York City's going to go from a Rudy Giuliani to a Mamdani. Can you believe that, Rich? Seriously. Nuts. I'm a big fan of this Patricia Heaton. I don't know her, of course, but she's got guts. And over at Fox, Patricia Heaton warns America could face another 9/11 if the nation ignores rising anti-Semitism and radical Islam. She's a faithful Christian. She's a solid person. The pro-Israel advocate speaks ahead of the 2-year anniversary of the Hamas massacre. She's a brilliant lady, a solid lady. She understands the connection between Christianity and Judaism. And what she's saying there, that we could face another 9/11 You look at the rising anti-Semitism in this country. You look at the radical Islam rising in our country. They're getting more and more political positions in our country, academic positions in our country, media positions in our country. And the radicalism and the hate, the evil that is being spewed on a regular basis. It's incredible. Incredible. Just to show you how corrupt the American media are, you've got this mayor in Dearbornistan and most of the city council, which is Islamist. You saw what they did with that pastor, right? The mayor told him to get the hell out of his city, and when he does, he'll have a parade celebrating the fact that he's been pushed out of the city. This is the way it works with the Islamists. Now, I don't know about you, but Mr. Producer, wouldn't you have a journalist, a real journalist, reporter from a real newspaper, maybe the Detroit Free Press or something like that, sitting in on these meetings, these public meetings with the mayor and the city council to keep track of this stuff so they could report it to the American people? You would think, right? That's pretty shocking that they don't. But they don't. Patricia Heaton is a patriot. And she's worried about another 9/11, as am I. And I will say this about if something horrific like that happens again, you're going to hear the bottom feeders in the media business tell you, from radio to cable and elsewhere, I warned you about this. Notice they don't say anything right now. The word Islamist never crosses their lips. Why? Why is that? They're Islamists. It's like my comparing these Democrats to the old Confederacy. I've been doing it for months and months and months. With the sanctuary cities, the nullification. Effectively, they want secession on issues. The illegal aliens have become like their local militia to use against ICE. Now we're starting to see people pick up on it. My buddy Victor wrote about it the other day. That was good. Yesterday, I saw another guy on another column do it without attribution. I get it. I do. But nonetheless, it's out there. That's important, I think, because that's what's taking place. And I want to mention something. I have a question for you. Why are we still negotiating with Hamas, Mr. Producer? Now, originally I thought it was take it or leave it. Apparently not. But these reports could be wrong, but there may be some truth to them, that Hamas is opposed to a truce, quote unquote, and wants guarantees from America. Now, we better not be giving guarantees to a monstrous terrorist organization with the blood of Americans and others on their hands. I can tell you that. There must be no American guarantees. Not now, not ever. Used to be that we don't even negotiate directly or indirectly with a terrorist or terrorist organization. And so there are efforts by the administration, extraordinary efforts to bring this to an end. Even with Hamas surrounded in the city of Gaza, I can't think of another instance in world military history where a nation has the enemy as another nation's enemy, the enemy surrounded, and the nation that has surrounded the enemy is the nation that was attacked, where then it's okay, everybody stop. We certainly didn't. No way. But I am a little confounded. I'm just being honest with you. I would tell the president the same thing. I would tell anybody the same thing. Tomorrow's Wednesday. This deal was signed. It'll be 9-10 days ago. They had 2 or 3 days originally to say yes or no. Now it's in negotiations. And I would tell our Israeli friends, don't give another inch. Nothing. Zero. Because what's going to happen is the world, the Arabs, they're going to pressure the Israelis. You got to do more for Hamas. You got to do more. You got to do more. No more. No more. That's it. That's it. I'll be right back.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, America. Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. President Trump today on the so-called government shutdown. Now, they're going to make it as painful as they can. I'm telling you now. We have some of the FAA who don't want to come to work, even though they're required to go to work. This sort of thing is going to happen. So, while in fact it has not shut down, you're going to start to see work stoppages like this. Now, what Reagan did in response to one of these work stoppages is he fired the entire workforce at the FAA and the towers, but he had the military as a backup. So if people want to play games, the president does have options. He does have options. I keep hearing about we're going to fire employees. I'm not seeing that. Are you, Mr. Producer? I don't know. Not yet. Here's the president. Cut 11. Go.
They're the ones that started it. They're the ones that have it. And it's almost like a kamikaze attack by them. You want to know the truth? This is like a kamikaze attack. They almost, they have nothing to lose. They've lost the elections. They've lost the presidential election in a landslide. I saw the other day where Kamala said this was a very close election. This was one of the biggest sweeps that anybody's ever had. Won the popular vote by millions, won the Electoral College by a massive amount. They said, if I got 270, that would be great. But I got, I think, 312 or 315, and they got 220. So, we won that. But we won counties. The big thing is counties. So out of all of the counties, thousands and thousands, we got 2,500. They got 525. It was a landslide. And we listened, oh, yes, it was close. It was one of the greatest victories ever. And it was a mandate to do what we're doing.
And he's right. I mean, the demographics have changed. Everything has changed. And he still won in a massive landslide. That's what it was under current modern circumstances. There's no question about it. And she keeps saying it's the closest election. And she's such a liar and so dim-witted. Cut 12, go.
I'll tell you what, I'm getting calls from Democrats wanting to meet. I never even heard their names before. And they're claiming to be leaders. The Democrats have no leader. They remind me of Somalia, okay? And I met the president of Somalia. I told him about the problem he's got. I said, you have somebody from Somalia who's telling us how to run our country. She's from Somalia. He said, would you like to take her back? He said, no, I don't want her. Okay, you know who I'm talking about?
That's funny. Nobody wants her. Nobody wants her back, that's for sure. And then there's Bernie the Red Sanders. He's a Stalinist. He's not even a Marxist. Stalinist. Cut 13, go.
Well, it is clear that this shutdown has got to end as soon as possible. What's also clear is that Trump now understands that he has to finally deal with the health care crisis. His legislation,
excuse me, America. I thought Obama fixed the health care crisis. Remember all that, Mr. Producer? Even Biden said this is a big effing deal. I thought Obama fixed the health care crisis. So he lied, made it worse. So Bernie's view is, what we have to do is more government, more centralization, illegal aliens on health care. So that's what we got to do. Right, Bernie? Bernie? Go ahead.
Trump may be crazy, and Trump may lie all of the time.
No, he's not crazy. He doesn't lie. But you're nuts. You're bat-S nuts. And you Stalinists, you've gotten away with this old man routine since you were in your 40s. In your 40s. You're pathetic. Go ahead.
Good politician. He is seeing the same polls that I am seeing. And that is all over this country. The American people are saying, you know what? We can't afford health care now.
Obamacare. They can't afford Obamacare. Ladies and gentlemen, Obamacare is a failure. Like I told you that it would be a failure. Like many told you it would be a failure. Obamacare is bad health care, minimal options, way overpriced. That's government-run health care. That is Obamacare. And now the Democrats, they won't say it. They're running against Obamacare. We got to fix this. We got to fix it. Now, keep in mind, this is a continuing resolution, the purpose of which is not to change programs or increase taxes or increase the debt or increase spending, but they get them through for a few weeks so they can finish their appropriations process. Now they want to fight over Obamacare, but they don't want to call it Obamacare. They don't want to call it Obamacare. It is Obamacare. Go ahead.
Mr. Trump wanted double health care premiums.
No, he didn't. No. These damnable Marxist Islamists, they just lie and lie and lie because that's what they do. Donald Trump wanted double premiums, America? Who here really believes that? And how would that help Donald Trump? And does that even sound like Donald Trump to you? This dumb bastard talking the way he talks? He needs to go on, CNN with Caitlin Collins. I'm sure she'll be tough. Don't you hate Donald Trump? Give us 7 reasons why. These kind of things they ask. In fact, what show is he on here? I don't even know. Caitlin Collins? CNN. How did I know? How did I know? Go ahead.
Well, you want to throw 15 million people off the health care that they have. You're going to destroy.
He didn't throw 15 million people off health care. You bastards did this. But in any event, they're not going to be thrown off health care. This is a continuing resolution. If you support a continuing resolution, it plows ahead. If you want to address health care issues, you can do that later. In other words, let us be clear. Obamacare is a failure. Very poor health care coverage and way overpriced. There you had good old socialist health care. It didn't work. It doesn't work. Wait until it's free. Then you'll die before you get to the hospital. Go ahead.
We may not be able to recover from that. I think Trump understands.
Shut up, you clown. Had about enough of you. Now we have Hakeem Jeffries. Who? Hakeem Jeffries. Hakeem Jeffries. I like to clear my throat. Cut 15, go.
So to the extent that anything emerges in terms of bipartisan discussions amongst Senate Democrats and Senate Republicans with full visibility involving House Democrats, then we'll have to evaluate anything that's presented on the merits. But the line in the sand has been clear. It has to decisively address the Republican health care crisis.
There you go. So they polled this. They found out America's upset about, he calls it Republican, Obamacare. They want it fixed. And so now, in literally 48 hours, they have turned this into a health care issue. Because that's what they do. But they don't care about health care. They're the ones that created Obamacare. They're the ones who ignored the fact that it was unworkable, that it was lousy coverage at an excessive price. That's their invention. That's their Frankenstein. They're the ones who created that. Now they want you to believe that this has always been their concern and their intention, when it hasn't. So we've gone in 48 hours to health care for the American people because they've been exposed as fighting for health care for illegal aliens. You understand what I'm saying? And so they all talk the same way, like good little communists. They all march the same way. That's right. They all dress the same way. when they're dressed. You get the point. So they got their propaganda. This is what it is now. It's healthcare. We need to fix healthcare, a.k.a. Obamacare failed. Don't talk about illegal aliens. Lie about them. Lie about them. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin. Mark Levin, the thunder on the right. Call in now, 877-381-3811.
Pleasure to have our friend, Speaker Mike Johnson, with us. A great speaker, as a matter of fact. Speaker Johnson, we've gone in 48 hours from the Democrats wanting to fund hundreds of billions of dollars of health care for illegal aliens and able-bodied individuals to now they want to save health care for the average person. What are they talking about? Obamacare, which has been a disaster?
Yeah. Hey, Mark, great to be with you. Thanks for your example. Thanks for your voice, especially today. I watched it this morning on Fox News, and I quoted you all day long. You have a way of synthesizing things better than I ever can. So I appreciate you so much, my friend. Listen,
Likewise,
the Democrats, well, thank you. The Democrats are looking for a distraction, a red herring, as we used to say in debate club in high school, okay? They're trying to distract everybody from the real issue. The real issue, as you and I both know, is that Chuck Schumer needs political cover because he's going to draw a challenge from AOC or another Marxist in his next reelect. That's 100% what all of this is about. Chuck Schumer was the biggest advocate for CRs in Congress. He's been there for 44 years, and as recently as March of this year, he gave an impassioned plea on the floor of the Senate saying how a CR was the only choice because shutting down the government would be disastrous for everybody. This whole healthcare thing is a red herring. They just needed something to pick a fight with President Trump so that he can show that he's tough. And real Americans are being harmed in the process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because they haven't been talking about this. And all of a sudden they think they have an idea. I guess they poll tested it and said, all right, claim that we want to fix health care. When in fact, if they have health care proposals, they're free to propose them. What you're trying to get done here is a basic spending bill that bridges you through this appropriations process, correct?
That's exactly right. It's a totally clean, very simple, bare bones CR, a continuing resolution to literally just keep the lights on so Congress can finish its job. And that is the issue. It was an issue for September 30th, which was the end of the fiscal year, and we missed that deadline. So now we're closing in. The government has been shut down for a week because 44 Democrats in the Senate, led by Schumer, refuse to do the obvious and simple thing. And again, the thing they've done themselves so many times in the past and impassionately said we had to. Mark, 13 times during the Biden administration, in the 4 years of Biden, they all voted for CRs. But now suddenly they can't do it. This thing about health care is they're trying to bootstrap a policy issue that has to be decided by the end of the year. It's a subsidy for Obamacare that expires December 31. By the way, the Democrats are the ones that put the expiration date on it when they passed it into law. It was a COVID-era thing. And that's an issue that we were always going to debate and negotiate and go through for the months ahead of us. It was supposed to be an October, November matter. And now they're trying to claim that that's the issue of the day. They're just trying to distract the public. And sadly, the legacy and mainstream media have just parroted their talking points. And so we're just going out to try to say, look, the facts are very simple here. They need to keep the government open so we can continue government services and continue the appropriations process.
What are you hearing over on the Senate side, since really that's where the action is? Do you hear that any of the Democrats are starting to get weak-kneed, or are they getting kind of firming up their spines now?
Well, to be honest, I do believe that many of them are looking for an exit ramp. They've painted themselves into a corner. They have no justification for it. They can't even make a cogent argument as to why they're there. I had lunch with my Senate Republican colleagues today, their weekly leadership lunch, and I was invited to come in and share my thoughts from the House. And I can tell you, Mark, Republicans are united like we have never been in Washington so long as I've been observing politics and been engaged. I've been in Congress about 8 years. I've never seen the Senate Republicans, the House Republicans, and a Republican president and White House so closely united. There's not a sliver of daylight between us. And that's a very important thing for the country because we're doing the right thing for the right reason. We're trying to serve the people, and Democrats are playing politics.
Mm-hmm. They're now claiming they want to negotiate on this healthcare issue. So you're telling me the executive branch and the House and the Senate Republicans are all on the same page and they understand that that's just a setup?
It's a setup. And look, don't take our word for it. Look at the ridiculous counter proposal that Chuck Schumer filed. The CR that they wanted to pass would add $1.5 trillion in new spending to a 7-week stopgap funding measure. It's absurd. And all sorts, I mean, it's a big government wish list of all sorts of nonsense, including they're demanding that we give $500 million back to the Corporation for Public Broadcasting so we could prop up left-leaning media organizations that are no longer needed and totally biased. They want to claw back the $50 billion that Republicans just passed into law to support our rural hospitals that are struggling. And importantly, okay, their proposal would result in about $200 billion spent on health care for illegal immigrants and other non-citizens, Mark. We're not making this up. It's in their own document. Go to page 57, section 2141. It's on my website right now, speaker.gov. Go see what Chuck Schumer filed and see if we're not telling you the truth. I'm telling you, it is crazy politics. Their strategy is ridiculous. They painted themselves in a corner and they got nowhere to go.
You're spending a lot of time getting out in the media trying to educate the American people. And yet, as I watch this, the questions that you're being asked, it's as if they're the talking points for the Democrats all the time. The effort is to always put you on defense as you respond to them. No, I mean, it seems almost like a chorus line.
Yeah. And Mark, I'm going on so-called news programs, and it's as if I'm in a debate with, the leaders of the Democrat Party. They are literally repeating the false narrative and talking points of the other side. And it's been pretty outrageous, and people are seeing it for what it is, and they're frustrated. CNN had to call and apologize to me today.
Really? For what?
Did, because, well, they cut me off midstream in the middle of my leadership press conference that they were supposed to be covering as a news item a few days ago, right before when I said that illegal aliens were going to get health care paid for by hardworking American taxpayers. I was just about to point to the exhibit. Literally, I had a big exhibit. It was like I was in court. And they cut me off midstream and said the speaker is not telling the truth. I mean, literally, on CNN. And so they had to backtrack now and apologize for it. I mean, they're so overt. And yet, Mark, the good news is, the encouraging thing, the American people are seeing through this. They understand who's doing the right thing and who isn't. And the public opinion polling is moving. They're increasingly blaming the Democrats because clearly it's them. 5 times now, the Senate Democrats have voted to shut the government down. And they're going to get another chance tomorrow. And I hope they'll do the right thing.
There's 2 things I noticed. One is a propaganda point where they say Republicans always pay the price. The government shut down more times under Ronald Reagan, and he didn't pay any price. That's number one. Number 2, this long so-called shutdown that you had dealing with Obamacare, where Ted Cruz filibustered and so forth, that didn't cost them a single seat in the Senate. So they're wrong when they say that. The other thing I would tell you, Mr. Speaker, is the vast majority of Mr. and Mrs. Americas out there are largely unaffected by this. So now what's happening is the bureaucracy and the Democrats and the media are trying to figure out, how do we make this more painful for the public? I think that's going on right now, too.
I think it is. We'll get through this. The right is going to prevail, and the president is going to get a win, and we are as well. For the American people, that's what this is about.
All right, hang in there. You're doing a fantastic job. God bless you, my friend.
Thank you, my friend. God bless you.
We'll be right back.
Nobody says it better than Mark Levin.
I'll go with what Mark Levin said, because nobody could say it better.
Call in now at 877-381-3811.
The Democrats are so vile. We have massive violence in this country due to them. Truthful. It's the truth. And it doesn't matter how many people get shot, whether it's the average citizen in the street, whether it's the President of the United States, whether it's Charlie Kirk, they won't stop. They just won't stop. This guy Pritzker in Illinois is an extremely dangerous demagogue. He says that, among other things, Trump is militarizing these cities before the 2028 elections. He's not militarizing anything. He's trying to get the bad guys out. Dan Rayfield, you might say, who's that exactly? The Attorney General of Oregon. He doesn't have much to do, does he? Sits on his ass. He's on MSNBC, just as Pritzker was on MSNBC yesterday. He says Trump's talking about rigging our elections to maintain power in November. This is what gets the kooks going. Gets them getting guns and taking shots. This is what it is. Al Sharpton. Barely literate, of course, but that's what they are at MSLSD. Trump administration is trying to make peace in the Middle East while assaulting Americans at home. Are you being assaulted, America? I mean, this is what I'm talking about. And then, of course, Bernie Sanders and his outrageous comments. This guy's never been held to account for anything. He will not go on media that challenges him. We've tried Mamdani, no luck. We've tried Ayach, no luck. We've tried Sanders, no luck. We've tried Tlaib, no luck. We've tried Omar, no luck. And I can go down the list. You want to know why? Honestly, if you were them, you wouldn't want to come on this show, would you, Mr. Producer? I would, and I would do it respectfully, absolutely destroy them. Absolutely destroy them. They're cowards. That's what they are. They're cowards. All right. Let's take a few calls here. Hold on now. Got to get this working here. There we go. Wait a minute. I lost it. I know you sent it to me, Rich. I can't. Oh, it's on my text. Excuse me, folks. I'm just glad we're on the air. We didn't lose the connection. Don't jinx it. You know, now you sound like my wife. Flight's going great. I'll say, you know, the flight's going great. Then all of a sudden, we can't get into the gate. Anyway, let's take some calls here. Julie, my wife's name, Indianapolis, Indiana, Sirius XM. Julie, go right ahead, please.
Yeah, I had a question for Speaker Johnson. I wondered why
Well, it's too late. He's gone. How may I help you?
Well, do you have any idea why he won't seat the new representative, Grijalva?
Oh, you're into the Epstein stuff? Is that it?
Well, yeah, I mean, I thought
you're calling the wrong show because I don't give a damn.
Is it because he's in it, maybe?
No, he's not in it. If he were in it, don't you think the Biden people would put it out? Don't you have anything better to do, honestly? Is this what swirls around your mind all day long? That there's some massive conspiracy cover-up to protect Trump, which is ridiculous? I mean, all right, thank me not. Get lost. Let's go on. She lied to get on about the budget, then the speaker, then Epstein. You could see she barely has two brain tissues to rub together. I don't care about the Epstein stuff, except the people getting justice. That I care about. But you conspiracy theorists, call somebody else. They're all out there. Call Tarlson. Call all of his buddies. Call whomever you want. Just don't bother me. Hello. Period. We've got a country to save. United States of America. Let's go to Mike, California, Sirius XM Satellite. Mike, how may I help you?
Hi, Mark. I had a couple.
And by the way, remember that poll, Mr. Producer? The Epstein matter doesn't even appear as an issue of interest among Republicans generally, let alone MAGA. So the one person got through, Mr. Producer. Go ahead, Mike.
Hey, got a couple questions for you because I know that you love the Constitution. In fact, I got to say you're one of the few people I think is smart enough to connect all the dots and understand what's really going on in this country.
Uh-oh.
And well,
what's
true.
your question?
And well, the question is, since when we in the military are if we are given a order that is an illegal order, that's like a lot of the Dems saying, oh, Trump might send SEAL team in to do this and that, to assassinate this person or kidnap that person. Well, if it's an illegal order, we are required.
You don't do it.
Obey that order. We could go to jail. And my question is, if Trump is commander in chief, I know he's a civilian, but as commander in chief, doesn't he actually have an obligation to disobey an illegal order that will cause harm to Americans because of the oath he's taken?
It gets a little more complicated when you're talking about three branches of power, three branches of government. So that determination has to be made, number one. Number two, it will be made in his favor. That's number two. And number three, I'm totally sympathetic with your position that these judges are completely out of line. They have absolutely no authority here. I don't care what any other lawyer tells you. It's an amazing thing. My wife asked me a great question, Mike. She said, out of all the uses of the Insurrection Act, how many times was a president sued to prevent him from using the Insurrection Act? Starting in 1808, it was passed in 1807, starting in 1808 with Jefferson. I don't think ever. Certainly not often. The Insurrection Act was used to compel the integration of our schools in Arkansas, in Alabama, in Mississippi. The Insurrection Act was used by Ulysses S. Grant probably over half a dozen times after the Civil War during Reconstruction to go after the Klan, to prevent strikes and other things of that sort. We're talking here, Mike, about mayors and governors who claim they have immunity from the federal Constitution and federal immigration laws by just declaring themselves sanctuary cities, by saying that local law enforcement will not assist the federal government, by obviously dog whistling to their private militia that includes illegal aliens and their supporters in the general population, and Antifa, who are now using violence against ICE that's trying to enforce our duly passed immigration laws and the President of the United States lawful order. And so when you have an idiot judge, and there are many, but when you have an idiot judge who rules, well, freedom of speech and resistance is very American and this, and she's an idiot. She doesn't even know what she's talking about. Maybe she ought to see what's going on in the streets. Maybe the clown judge in Portland ought to remember what's happening to the Portland Federal Courthouse, the Hatfield Courthouse, that's been firebombed and attacked for years. For years. Yes, we have, as you point out, lawlessness, not just in the streets, but in black robes. And the president has to get this resolved, and he will get it resolved because he's already appealed these decisions. Thank you for your call. It's a very good call. But these things that are going on are very sick because it involves the Democrats. It's a very sick party. It's always been a sick party, America. Slavery, the Civil War, segregation, eugenics, Jim Crow, now Marxism, Islamism, open borders. They support the criminals, no matter how vile they are, against law enforcement. This is a sick party. Diabolical. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Let's continue, shall we? Kevin, Seattle, Washington, the great KTTH. Yes, Kevin, how may I help you?
How we doing?
All right, thank you.
Well,
are you in Seattle because you like the riots or the rain? Which one?
I'm in Seattle because I'm a truck driver.
Oh, okay. That's the third one. Yes. Yes, sir.
Can't we charge some of these people with inciting violence?
Yes. 100%. And your question also, business owners are damaged. Yeah, they can bring civil suits. In fact, that's the best way to break their backs. I agree with you.
How come we aren't utilizing the courts right now?
Well, I think they are. I think they are. But that takes time, by the way. And the other thing they need to do, and I think they are, is they're trying to find the funding sources behind them. Because this stuff's organized, as you well know. It's organized. There's dark money coming in here from billionaires, from other countries. These are not riots. These are rebellions. These are acts of insurrection. And the president has broad authority and absolute authority to use that. And he's not required to have federal judges looking over his shoulder all the time. All right, my friend. Anything else?
Well, I know Lincoln jailed a guy for inspiring soldiers to desert.
Yep.
To me, it's kind of on the same deal.
Yeah, but he got in trouble eventually. And Congress had to bail him out by passing a law that enabled him to do it, because only Congress can suspend the habeas corpus. And so that's what they did. But, this is a different time. They hate Donald Trump. They'd like to throw him in prison. They'd like to impeach him. The Democrat Party is a vile entity. It was a vile entity when I went after Lincoln. It's a vile entity today. Kevin, great call. God bless you, my friend. Let's go to our buddy Lance in Montana, the great KJJR. Lance, how are you, buddy?
I'm fine as frogs here, Mark. Thank you. Hey, I wanted to say thank you for
Now, that means you're in bad shape, right?
No, actually, I'm quite well.
But frogs don't have hair unless I'm missing something.
That's how fine I'm doing.
All right, go right ahead.
Hey, thank you for the book. I appreciate it. I received it while you were over in Israel, and I've read through it. But one thing that rattles around my rusty old brain pan is the second page, I believe, you're listing the type of power, and you mention ambiguous power. Mm-hmm. And that, to me, is kind of the most concerning, because that's what I see, to me, is the most prevalent on the other side, is they're trying to mine power out of the ether. They're not really in the elected power positions of power. From city, county to people like AOC into the Senate. Would you speak to how do we combat something that is as ambiguous is defined? There is no real definition.
There is no way to conquer it or to combat it. I mean, the whole point of separation of powers is one branch checks the other. But ambiguous power, implied power, powers like that, in my view, are really quite illegitimate. So if you have judges, in particular Supreme Court justices, that embrace that, well, that makes it tough. How do you fix that? Our system is... you got to go back to what Benjamin Franklin said, and he wasn't the only one, as I also quote in the book on power. John Adams said it, Jefferson said it, Franklin said it, Madison said it, they all said it. If we lose our virtue, no system of government's going to matter. No system of government's going to work. If people aren't really interested in complying with the Constitution and their obligations, there's nothing that can be written to stop them. And that's where we're going with this. That's where the Democrat Party is. They wave around the Constitution when it comes to conveying rights on illegal aliens and criminals, but they hate the Constitution. They've spent years telling us they hate the people who wrote the Constitution and ratified the Constitution. They spent years telling us that it's nothing but a white supremacist document. And then they wave it around, the Bill of Rights in particular, when they feel it'll help them. But they're really not committed to this society. They're not committed to this Constitution, to this country. They're just not. And so they're not going to be virtuous, these people. Great call, Lance. We salute our armed forces, police officers, firefighters, emergency personnel, our truckers. The men and women in Ukraine. We haven't heard about them lately. The men and women in Israel. You, the American people, God bless each and every one of you. At our National Town Hall meeting, I'm blessed that you're here. Thank you. And I'll see you tomorrow.